Hello, everyone. I am Leona Abraham Branda, host of Blog Talk Shedding Light. Today, we're going to be talking about shedding light on fatherless children. We hear in the media all the fathers that are being congratulated on Father's Day, which is admirable, and I respect all of these fathers, and I want to thank you all for being respectful fathers who really, really care about their children. And unfortunately, we have a population not only in the communities, but in the penal system as well, of young men, children who have grown up without a father. They call them deadbeat dads. I don't know what I would call them. I don't know what you would call them. But I think it's terrible that we forget on Father's Day and even on Mother's Day, we forget what these children are going through. They grew up without a father or a mother or both. I know a lot of people say when we talk about prisoners and being fatherless, a lot of them say, well, I was fatherless. I never ended up in prison. But we have to look at something. We have to look at the fact that it's not only the fathers or the mothers, it's the environments, it's the support you get, the number of people who actually care in your circle, and it depends on a lot of other things, traumas that people experience as children, growing up without a father or a mother. Not only the traumas, but there's so many other things that we have to look at. I think sometimes when the media and anyone else talks about Father's Day or Mother's Day, I think they need to throw something in there to the fathers that have not been there for their children, to the fathers who have neglected their children, deserted their children, never claimed their children, because they need to be reprimanded. They need to be brought out into the open. Just like we say, there's mental illnesses in this country. It's serious. Traumas. Mental illnesses, I don't want people to get the idea that when you talk about mental illnesses, you're talking about mental retardation. Because some of the smartest people are suffering from mental illnesses. And unfortunately, the American Psychological Association, the American Psychiatric Association, Department of Mental Health, they've all kind of like forgotten about a lot of these issues and a lot of these people that are suffering from it. So we have to take the lead in trying to at least make it easier for these people that are suffering as fatherless children, to make it easier for them, to let them know that we have not forgotten them, that we have them in our hearts and minds. We can't control their parent, whether their father's in the picture or not, or the mother's in the picture or not, where the father is, what he's doing. But we can control the fact that when we know that someone is suffering in prison, when we know that they are suffering in prison and in the communities because they have no father, that we're there for them in some way or another. You can find prisoners, you can email them, you can write to them, you can do video visits with them. But just remember the book of Matthew 25, chapter 25, 36. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came to me. This is something that, unfortunately, these people in prison, they have lost trust in society. They have lost trust with a lot of people because they have suffered so much. Many of them suffered as children, adolescents, ended up in prison suffering more by the prison staff or the prisoners. It's hard for them to be able to express their feelings and express themselves when there's nobody there. And I will say one thing, for those in prison, there have been many of them who have been hurting so much, have suffered so much. They've tried to get help in counseling while in prison. And unfortunately, a lot of times they have been deceived. They have been afraid to go back to counseling because sometimes their personal information gets circulated to other people in the prison system that work for the prison system. So when you can't trust your mental health worker because they're feeding information to the correctional officers or prison officials, who do you turn to? And for those in the communities, We see a lot of people that are homeless. We wonder what's going on. It's not only mental illnesses that we have a problem with in this country, it's also addictions. A lot of people try to hide their pain and suffering, either through physical exercises, like going to the gym, working out, doing as much as they can to keep their bodies healthy and get their mind off the problems. While others, they can't do that. They will drink to try to forget or drink to try to block things out. So many of them end up in prison or they end up in the streets. We talk about these prison ministries. These prison ministries, they go into the prisons, but how much are they doing? And I'm hoping they do a lot. But you don't hear too much about it, especially for those many prisoners who are maybe in solitary confinement. Who's going to visit them? We have politicians that go into the prisons to meet with prisoners, and a lot of times, or most of the time, or all the time, when they go into the prisons, they don't go into the places where the prisoners are being held in solitary confinement, behavioral modification programs, or they don't go where they're being hidden. This is sad because a lot of times these people are not only suffering from being fatherless, but they're suffering from being forgotten. And I want to say, as I say all the time, God forgave Moses. He forgave King David. He forgave Saul, who later became the Apostle Paul. These were all murderers. Saul murdered many Christians before he became the Apostle Paul. God used these people in a big way. So these people in prison, if given half the opportunity, maybe they can also be as productive and helpful in bringing people closer to God and also rehabilitating them, reforming them. Because that's all it takes is somebody that cares for these individuals. Show them that they are human. Show them that they are not forgotten. Show them that they are meaning to somebody. And I know a lot of people have been harmed by the incarcerated population too. But we can't stereotype and judge every person in prison as being the same. You're going to find good and bad in the prisons with the employees, with the prisoners, just like you find in the communities. You're going to find good and bad in everywhere you go. And unfortunately, even for these providers, these people that are supposed to be working with the prisoners, even for lawyers, you're going to find good and bad in lawyers as well. Because many lawyers have taken so much money from prisoners and or their families, only to maybe visit them once or twice and charge them outrageous prices into the thousands. You have a lot of people in prison that are indigent. They can't afford a lot of things. So they're barely making it. All I'm saying is that we have to be more considerate. And Father's Day and Mother's Day, those are good times to start contemplating on how you're going to make yourselves better by helping others. And when it talks about, in the Bible, when it talks about do unto your neighbors, they're not talking about your neighbors next door. They're talking about your neighbors throughout. We need to be able to reach out to anyone that we know is hurting. We need to reach out to anyone out there who we know does not have support, who we know is being abused or deprived or tormented or tortured. We have people who have been separated from their families throughout this country in the last year or so. They have been torn apart from their families, from their parents. We have people who are just out there not knowing which way to turn anymore. I know one thing, things have gotten so much worse, and it's going to get worse because it's all prophesied in the Bible. But at the same time, we don't have to help it get worse. In the meantime, we can try to help those who are suffering from the effects. We can try to help them. We can try to help one another. But I just feel bad today because I'm thinking about these people who are celebrating Father's Day with their fathers and their children, and I congratulate them, and I give so much respect to these men out there that are that are actually doing what they know they should be doing, and that is being the father of the child whom they have brought into this world, into this earth, just like the mothers. But for those fathers out there, I'm going to tell you about one situation with the family. They never bothered with the child, the grandson, the nephew, whatever. They never bothered with him. When the father died, they never even put down in the obituary that he had a son. And this is a son that he would have been very proud of because this son did everything to do everything right. He never got into trouble. He was never involved with drugs. He was good to people. He had a heart of compassion. Tears would break him, and tears did break him. When somebody falls for tears of deceivers, they end up in a place where they never expected to be. But for these fathers, these deadbeat dads, I have no use for many of them, for any of them, unless they have a reason for not being there for their sons or their daughters. Many of them may be in prison, but if they had children before they went to prison, perhaps staying at home with your children would have saved you from being incarcerated. We don't know the situation, and I'm not one to judge, but I want to commend those of you who have stood up as fathers, those of you who are actually there with your children today on Father's Day. And I want to congratulate the mothers who were there for their children on Mother's Day. But I want to ask the media and everyone else to be a little sensitive when it comes to these holidays, because there are millions throughout the globe of children without a father or without a mother. Many of them unfortunately lost their fathers through wars, through all kinds of unnecessary and unwarranted conditions. But for those whose fathers are living and just out there partying or doing whatever they're doing, neglecting their children, not having anything to do with them, I have a problem with that. And I don't look at bars as being a place where people should be encouraging others to go to. I recently heard that in Massachusetts, they 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 let the bars close at 3 o'clock in the morning, when in fact they shouldn't be open after 12. But this is sad because when we have leaders, people and influential people who encourage partying, encourage bars, encourage all these things, especially for people who may have functioning alcoholic problems or drug problems. They may have other issues involving addiction. We don't need to encourage that. What we need to encourage, and I'm hoping that our leaders, instead of opening the bars until 3 in the morning, I'm hoping our leaders will say, we're going to close on Father's Day. We want all of you fathers to be out there for your children, same as Mother's Day, to encourage them to be there for their children. I'm just hoping that everyone listening to this will start thinking a little bit more about the damaging effects they themselves, by not speaking out or by speaking out about the wrong things, will start thinking about how they can change their ways to encourage more family involvement, to encourage more fathers to get involved with their children. A lot of these women, I'm going to say, who are denying their husbands or their boyfriends from seeing their children because the husband or boyfriend is not doing what they want them to do for them, I have to say one thing. I don't have respect for people like that. I have heard in so many years, I have heard of so many women who, because they're not getting enough money from their spouse or their boyfriends, are preventing them from having anything to do with their children. If these men want to be with their children and they can't afford to give you everything you want financially, take whatever you can and allow them to be a part of your children's lives, whether it be your husband or whether it be your wife's, or whether it be your girlfriend or whether it be your boyfriend. Any man that wants to see and be involved with their children should not be deprived because of financial, because of monies. It's sad because these men want to be close to their children. And if the woman, the wife or the girlfriend are denying it, you're just pushing them away. And someday those children are going to turn around and hate you for keeping them from their father and for keeping their father from them. The children can ask their father for money, if that be the case. But in the meantime, accept a man who is willing to be a father. And I have to say, any man that wants to be a father to their children, that takes the time to try to find a way to see their children when the mother or the father are being resistant, I give those people, I give them credit for trying. So many children have gone astray. So many have committed suicide. So many have been just trying to block everything out by taking substances and finally ending up in the street only to get worse. And I want to mention one other thing. This is very important. We have a lot of homeless shelters around the country. These homeless shelters are open to the homeless from 5 o'clock in the evening until 7 o'clock in the morning. Once 7 o'clock in the morning comes, they're out. They have to leave the homeless shelter until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. If the homeless shelters are getting funding for having the homeless shelter, they should allow these people to be in the homeless shelter all day long, during the day, and bring in volunteer counselors, substance abuse counselors, bring in volunteer social workers, bring in retired psychiatrists, psychologists, occupational therapists. Bring these people in during the day to work with these homeless people. Because when you put them out in the street at 7 o'clock in the morning, they have from 7 o'clock until 5 o'clock in the afternoon to get drugs or alcohol or something from anywhere. We all know anybody can get drugs out there in the streets or alcohol. So when they go back at 5 o'clock and they've been drinking or drugging, they're not allowed to go back into the homeless shelter. So what happens? They're going to be back in the streets again. I want everyone that's hearing me right now to please, please, please start encouraging the homeless shelters, the American Psychological Association, Department of Mental Health, whomever you can think of. Start calling them and saying, our taxpayer dollars are going into these homeless shelters that are just putting a roof over their head at nighttime. What are we paying for? Let's try to encourage these people to start bringing in volunteers. There are law students, there are psychology majors, social worker majors, there are criminal justice majors, there are substance abuse, there are paralegals. All of these kids, these students in schools, they want so much to do volunteer work in whatever field that they're going to school for, so that they can do their internships, so that they can get the experiences, so that they can do something. And here, no one is using them, but everybody is doing their own thing and allowing these people to be out in the streets, either overdosing or getting drunk or high and not being able to get back into a shelter, back on the streets again. It's a circle. One of the things is when we have these kind of circles, we need to break it. Somewhere along the line, these cycles need to be broken. Years ago when I did social work for a social service agency, the clients that we had, they were from dysfunctional homes, but those things were going on in their past, their family's past. I would do genograms with them to find out the family background. And the parents of these clients that I had, they were going through the same thing prior to this new situation that they had. And prior to that, the family members were having the same problems. So I would encourage, and I still do, not only the clients, but I encourage everyone to stop trying to break the cycle of repetitive negative events. try to stop the cycle of these events. We try to look at these unfortunate fatherless children, fatherless women and men, now adults. These children are now adults, many of them, and they're dysfunctional or they're having difficulty in society. They're having difficulty. And these little ones that are home, watching TV and watching how everyone's celebrating Father's Day or Mother's Day. And what are they thinking? They're holding all this pain inside. They can't let anybody know because it's embarrassing to them. Reach out. Reach out. Try to contact these nonprofit organizations that work with children, that work with adolescents, that work with prisoners. Try to reach out and ask how you can help. Ask if there's anyone out there that may need somebody to talk to, whether it be in the communities, in the prisons, in the homeless shelters, wherever it may be. I remember years ago, before becoming a social worker, I worked for an organization. It was a counseling agency, but they had a CAP program. The CAP, CAP. These were, what we would do was we'd take a child out. We'd take them fishing, we'd take them wherever, because they had no father. They were fatherless. So we would take them out and try to do some activities with them to see if they would open up, to see if they would talk. And they would. But we had to reach out to them. We had to let them know they could trust us. We had to let them know that we understood their situation, that we wanted to help. But we want you to trust us so that we can help. These kids, these adolescents, these young, middle-aged, and older, even now, men and women, a lot of them still have the childhood mentality because when they have something happen to them at a young age, they kind of like stay at a certain age level. They don't progress in age. They don't mature. And this is sad. So I just want to share all this with you. I want to thank all of you for listening. And I'm hoping that through what you're hearing, that you may reach out to someone. And there's a lot of prison ministries you can check with. There's a lot of even organizations like the Muslim organization or the Jewish organization or the whatever it might be. Reach out and ask how you can help a fatherless child. How you can help a fatherless child that may now be an adolescent or that may now be a young person in prison or on the streets or middle-aged. But most of all, the best thing you can actually do is to continuously call the American Psychological Association, continuously call the Department of Mental Health, and let them know that they need to do more to help these people, the mentally ill, the fatherless who are suffering from addictions and mental health issues. Contact NAMI, National Alliance for Mentally Ill. Encourage them to do more than what they're doing because there's so much they can be doing. And I'm so tired of hearing these organizations and all these places asking for money and complaining about funding when they can do all of this without any funding. I have an organization and I recruit my volunteers through the universities around the country. Criminal justice majors, law students, paralegals, psychology majors. These people are getting their experiences through working for an organization. They're getting their internships accomplished, achieved, and at the same time, we're benefiting. So use these kids, recruit. If you don't have enough funding, recruit these people to work under your organization, volunteer with your organization. Give them an opportunity to gain experience and also to do the internships. Many of them you're going to find around the country probably have family members or relatives or friends already in the system or in the communities who are addicted or suffering from mental illnesses. Think about it. Universities. I want to thank you all again, and please do think about all these things and think about how you can help another individual. There's organizations out there. You can go on the internet and type in organizations advocating for prisoners, or organizations advocating for homeless people, organizations advocating for the fatherless. You can, when you go on the internet, whatever comes to your mind, it's like writing it on a piece of paper. That's what you want to put in the internet, in the browser. You don't have to put HTTP or www, anything. Just put down, how can I help a homeless person? Or what organizations help homeless people? What organizations help prisoners? And I'm going to say one last thing before closing. These people that are helping prisoners, that are out there doing mental health issues, mental health, or whatever it might be, these people need to know when they're doing something right. They need to know, they need to be supported. There's a lot of the legislative members and senators throughout the country now who are also working on prison reform. They're also working on mental health issues within the penal system. You could go on the internet and type in politicians working towards prison reform, or politicians working towards criminal justice reform, or politicians working to help stop abuses in the prisons. Whatever comes to your mind, but make sure you put it in put your state's name in there. Prisoner advocates, politicians helping prisoners in Ohio, politicians working on prison reform in Ohio, or prison reform in California, or Florida, or Montana, or Oregon, okay? Whatever the case may be. Then you'll find out who's working towards prison reform, and then you want to contact them and let them know you support them, and you'd like to know if there's anything you can do to help as well. I believe it was Hillary Clinton years ago said it takes a village. Well, it takes a village. It takes a country to come together to try to resolve issues of concern. And right now, our issues of concern is to reduce mass incarceration in the United States, because we're the only country with mass incarceration, and also to figure out how we can help others to be more productive and to help themselves. And I will say, in the penal system in Massachusetts, there are a lot of prisoners who are trying desperately to participate in educational programs, and they are being denied. So this is a reason why we have so many problems in our penal system. A lot of these people incarcerated are trying to do the right thing, and they're being denied for the one reason: prisons for profit. They're making all this extra money as well. Prisons for profit. But one of the things is, if these people in prison do so well that they're released, the monetary issues will be coming up, because the prisons will be losing staff, and staff don't want to be getting laid off. So they're going to want to keep these prisoners as violent or as upset or as whatever as they can. That's a fact. That's a true fact that advocates around the country are very aware of. They closed down 2 prisons in Massachusetts. They closed down Concord, and they closed down Walpole. The reason being, Massachusetts is the only state in the United States that has the lowest population of incarcerated people. And now, because it's so low, and there's no need for as many employees, these employees are being sent to other prisons, and that can bring about, it's almost like one guard to every 2 or 3 prisoners. These are things that we don't want to see happen. We want to see these people have a second chance at freedom. We want to see them rehabilitated. either through vocational or educational programs. I would like to again say at one time we had mental institutions around the country. If they didn't think they were working, they should have provided more training to the mental health staff. They should have provided more monies to the mental health institution. They should have been monitoring. They should have made mandatory transparency, everything. But instead, they opened prisons, using prisons as the only alternative to house these people suffering from addictions and mental health issues. This is something else that we need to focus on, is to try to have everything shifted back over to long-term residential treatment facilities, long-term residential mental health treatment facilities, long-term residential addiction, substance abuse facilities. And when I say long-term, it doesn't mean 2 years or 4 years. It can be up to 20 years. But at least they will be getting the treatment, the mental health treatment that they should be getting. They will be getting treated, they will be getting healed. And these mental health workers will have more of an incentive to want to stay on their jobs rather than quitting because they're not getting paid enough or they're feeling like they're not trained enough to deal with some of these people. So what happens, these people stay in a facility around the country that they continuously get so abused with that it messes up their minds and their bodies. I want all of you to think about that as I say goodbye. I want to thank everyone for listening in, and I want to say once again to the fatherless, I hope and pray that people will reach out to you. To those with fathers, happy Father's Day, and I congratulate you fathers who have done such an excellent job being there for your children. We are now